Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Muiz and I am the community manager here at Cloudways. And I welcome you all to Cloudways' webinar week where we are celebrating an amazing milestone. WordPress is turning 20 years old this weekend. And to honor this great achievement, we have invited people who have worked hard over the years to make WordPress what it is today. This week, we will be live on YouTube every day to bring you insightful talks and sessions about WordPress community, security, performance, inclusivity, and much more. To kick off the celebration today, we have with us a very special guest, Akshat Choudhary, all the way from India, and he will talk about WordPress firewalls and how to solidify your WordPress protection. Although he doesn't need any introduction. But for those who don't know, Akshat has years of experience with WordPress security, firewalls, and he is the founder of BlogVault. So, Akshat, how do you feel about WordPress turning 20 in a few days?
Yes, no, it's first, hi boys. Thank you for having me on this Cloudway celebration. I'm glad to be a part of it. Uh, I can still remember the 10-year anniversary of it happened just like yesterday, and it's amazing that it's 20 years now. WordPress has
Yeah,
grown so rapidly in the past, actually right through it, right from its inception that.
yeah,
Yeah, it feels like you're on an amazing ride essentially.
yeah. So Akshat, I will start off with a question that I will use for every session. I mean, what's your earliest memory with WordPress? How far can you go with WordPress in your experience?
All right, so I generally consider myself a WordPress outsider. There are a lot of folks you meet who who started using WordPress for publishing and building websites and using it on their own blog. Uh, yeah, I never I barely blog I have barely blogged, so I don't come from that background. But what I did my experience with WordPress has been through like just as millions and millions of regular folks out there, just as a reader of some of the biggest blogs using WordPress. So I would visit their sites and you just use one. You visit the sites without even knowing that we are using WordPress. So that would be my
Yeah.
earliest memory of WordPress. Later
Hmm.
on, uh, I really started understanding what WordPress is when we started Blog Vault actually. So at that
Okay.
point of time, we try to figure out what is going on, what how do people really make blogs, and that's when we realize that, oh, there's this thing called WordPress.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will go as far as with the inception of WordPress, and they started, as you said correctly, they started blogging about it at first, and then when they got a hold of it, they started building websites, and now like they are WordPress core contributors, or they organize WordCamps, or they build amazing websites with WordPress, and I think those are the people who are responsible for making WordPress what it is today. So without further ado, Akshat, I will give the stage to you, and I will let you start off with your presentation on understanding WordPress 5 was. So the stage is all yours, Akshat.
All right, thanks, Moise. Yeah, as you mentioned, the people who build websites, people who publish, they are the main people who build WordPress, and they are the reason why WordPress is where it is. Completely agree with it. So again, coming back to the topic, we'll be talking about WordPress firewalls, and it's one of the most underestimated things when it comes to security. And to us, to me, and I think definitely folks at Cloudways also, given the kind of effort you put into the different types of firewall that you guys implement in your products, firewalls are one of the most important aspects of securing your website. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just go deep into why WordPress firewalls are important and how they will protect your website when things go wrong. All right. So going in a quick introduction about me, as Moise already mentioned, I am the founder of BlogVault. Uh, I've been doing this for more than 10 years. 2010 or 9 or 10 is when we started doing it on the side. And then we have been building different products, BlogVault, Malcare, WP Remote, Airlift, even the Cloudways migration plugin. All of those, these are the products we have built over the past 10 years. All of them are focused on the key concept of high performance WordPress, backup, security, migrations. I spoke about staging, updates, and speed. Uh, so yeah, going past is my background. Let's talk about what do we really need to know, right? As we uh, as we talk about WordPress security and why firewalls are important. So the most important thing to know about securing your website is to know how our website's hacked. We keep hearing of websites getting hacked all the time. Or WordPress in websites, I'm just generally saying WordPress sites, but obviously this also applies to other CMSs. But we'll keep the focus only on WordPress here. So how are WordPress sites hacked? And vulnerabilities, password breaches, poor web host security. We know of all of that, right? And what are the different a- attack mechanisms that cause a website to get hacked? SQL injection, the terms again, a lot of you will be familiar with. And finally, how do you test? Like if you have how do you test the security of a website? There's this thing called penetration testing, and we'll talk about that too, to some extent. All right. So getting back to how do websites get hacked? And this chart is reveals a lot of things about security. And if you ask, like, if I didn't give this number and the if I didn't give the 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 labels, the 95% of people believe that websites get hacked because somebody is stolen or figure out their username and password or credentials. And that's not true. 95% of websites get hacked because of vulnerabilities on their website, and only 5% of websites get hacked because of password breaches or someone cracking your password.
Yeah.
And again, something, I know that every web host suffers from this. The first thing that happens when a website gets hacked is the web host gets blamed,
Yeah.
but less than 1% of time the web host is responsible for it. So
Yeah.
again, there's so much noise and there's so much misconception. We are so easy to quickly blame, uh, try and figure out a blame or attribute the hack for a reason. And almost, if you took a poll, almost 90% of people will get it wrong. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why actually we wanted to give this presentation, because unless you know how a website get hacked, you will not form good protection against it. So
Yeah.
you'll be like, okay, fine, my website got hacked. Let me go and find a better web host because my web host is responsible for it.
Yeah.
And in some ways, web hosts do have a lot of responsibility. But if you think about how websites get hacked,
Yeah.
the action to take is not to find another web host, but actually to understand what really happened. Okay. And
And when
once
you
you do
and
this, then you
Akshat,
will,
yeah, and Akshat, when
yeah,
you
please
talk
tell
about
me, Moise.
vulnerabilities, and when you talk about vulnerabilities, I think a lot of vulnerabilities stem from plugins and themes and cores that are not updated. People using older version of
Yes, yes.
WordPress or yeah.
Agreed. You're jumping the gun, boys. So we'll get to this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. We'll cover this in the presentation going forward.
Okay.
What do vulnerabilities mean, and what do they comprise of? We'll go deeper into that. Okay. So what is the problem? The problem is malware. Malware attacks. All of these are ever changing, different type, and the attacks only have to succeed once. Whereas the protection, there are so many options of trying to protect your website. And the thing that makes it very difficult is if you ask a layman or even actually some of the agencies, people who have WordPress working for 20 years, all these 20 years, even if you ask them how do you test your security, it's really difficult to do so. And because you can't test your security easily, you end up making the wrong choices. And the final thing about security is it has to succeed every time. Okay. So in India we have this a lot of us play cricket, and the in a cricket in cricket something like baseball, but the bowler has to succeed only once, but the batsman uh, succeed every time. If he makes one mistake, he gets out, and and that's exactly how a security plugin also that's a responsibility of the security plugin. All right. So there are three parts of WordPress security, and you can't talk about firewall without covering all of this background that comes in here, right? So the three parts of WordPress security is obviously the firewall is a very important one, that's the protection layer. the malware removal, then malware scanning, because all for whatever security, whatever however good your protection is, at the end of it, there's no such thing as foolproof protection. So you need to constantly check for malware, and finally there's malware removal when something goes wrong. So you can have as many vitamins uh, and you can hit the gym and make sure that you follow the best practices and take care of your health. But there is always going to be there is no such thing as you'll still fall sick because you're fighting germs, and germs are everywhere, right? And when that happens, you want to know what's happened. You need to be able to run the test, and finally, you need the medicine and the doctor to help you remediate the situation. So this is you need all three aspects to really have comprehensive security for your website. All right. Now, going deeper into what is WordPress firewall? What is a WordPress? What is a firewall, and how does it protect your site? Okay, so what is a firewall? All of us have know firewalls. We have heard of firewalls by now, you know. But exactly what is a firewall? A firewall sits between your website and the audience or traffic that's coming in. It inspects the incoming traffic and only lets the good one in and blocks out the bad traffic. It's as simple as that, right? So, and how does it how does it check and how does it figure out what is good and what is bad? It uses a set of rules to do so. Okay, and this algorithm or this set of rules is what separates one firewall from the other. All right. Going further, how does the so we spoke about the ways in which websites get hacked. So we'll talk about how does firewall protect against this type of attacks that happen to your website. Let's take the easy one first, login security. The 5% of websites get hacked because of login, someone cracking your login. Uh, it's only 5% of the sites getting hacked, reasons why sites get hacked, but it gets the most attention. If you take and there's a reason why it gets so much attention. If you look at the logs of a website, you will see this innumerous number of requests coming on wplogin.php or xmlrpc.php, and you're like, oh, fine, somebody's trying to get into my website, crack my password, and what if they're successful? Right? So you obviously start trying to figure out how to mitigate against that because there are so many of such type of requests. But uh, it is while there are plenty in number, they succeed very rarely. Okay. The other reason why there's so much noise around, or why we spend so much effort, or most people spend so much effort with login security, is if you take any security plugin, the number of options they give you to protect to improve the login security of your website is like 80% of their options is related to protecting against login security or improving login security. CAPTCHA, 2FA, change username, change URL. A lot of these are not good practices, but I'm just mentioning it. And then uh, uh, a hide login page. The number of options is immense, and you feel that that's the most important part of the security. And while I don't want to take anything away from it, that is important. And we'll talk about how a firewall also protects against this. But remember, only 5% of sites actually get less than 5% of sites actually get hacked because of this. So uh, the most important part of login security is actually having strong passwords and make sure that each password is unique and you manage that password. That's actually the most important part of login security. Again, not something new. You must have heard this numerous times, and I just want to mention it because it's so important. We'll not go deeper into this because it's outside the scope of a firewall. Uh, Rather, we'll talk about what is a brute force. What is it? What remember I spoke about all the login requests that you are seeing in your hosting logs. So what actually is happening is one moment there. Sorry. Yeah. So what actually is happening is, uh, a hacker typically creates a bot. It's an automated software which tests out all combination of username and password and attacks and sends it to a website. It just keeps working non-stop. It can send out millions, and very simple computer can send out millions and millions of such requests at any given point of time, right? And uh, and while the whole space of the number of username and password is immense, so you would think that the chances of someone being able to crack a username password is very low, and it is low. But hackers are able to actually use some very smart things like dictionary attack, rainbow file credentials from a different breach, again to improve their success rate. So, a lot of us end up using the same password across multiple products. And if even one of the products uh, has a breach, security breach, that password, if it ever gets leaked, then hackers know that if they try the same password, username, password on the website or in different services, they can still get in. Which is why having a unique strong password which is different for every service is very important, because hackers are able to use a breach in one place to actually attack your website here or to improve the chances of compromising your website, right? And the hacker just keeps trying cycling through these credentials until they find a match. Again, the chances of this happening is very low, which is why we see less than 5% sites getting hacked because of this. Further, today Chrome itself comes in with a password manager. WordPress also has lots of, by default, it generates a very strong password. You have web host generating really strong passwords. So Cloudways, when you set up a site there, you will see that a very strong password gets created. Or or you have password managers which also create. So all of these things have further reduced the risk uh, of websites getting compromised because of passwords uh, getting stolen or breached or identified. Uh, how a firewall protects it is typically by limiting the login attempts. So firewall will keep a track of how many attempts login, a failed login attempts a single IP is making, and then limiting the attempt. So a hacker will only have access to so many IPs, and if they send 1,000 requests in an hour or 10,000 requests in an hour from a single IP, you know that something is going wrong, and you don't need to wait for all 10,000 requests. You can start blocking it preemptively also. So there are lots of strategies over here which firewalls attempt, but basically what they rely on is identifying IPs and limiting it. This is actually a very effective way of protecting against such attacks. And but just by using a firewall, you are able to dramatically reduce the likelihood of your site getting compromised because of password. Hackers being able to crack your password. Uh, so this is an example of the logs, and in this case, all these are getting blocked. And you can see all sorts of attacks being made to uh, to try and crack a password. Okay, now well, that's an easy one. The second one is the more important one: vulnerability protection. Uh, what is a vulnerability? Vulnerability is nothing but a bug which uh, lets somebody gain unauthorized access to your site. You know, and all software. The nature of software is that they will always have bugs, and because they have bugs, some of them will be security bugs, right? So there's no such thing as foolproof software, and you'll always have these issues, security issues with websites. And What happens is when a security issue comes in, typically that security issue is also patched, right? So once a plugin maker or theme maker or WordPress also, finds that there's a problem with the code, then they also release an update to that code, and this is the most important part of about security, right? Always keep everything updated because uh, there is there is the that's the most important way of patching the website to make sure that there is no vulnerability or the vulnerability that has been discovered has been patched, right? And this while you'll patch the website, there is always a window when a website can still get hacked, right? So let's take an example of, in the past month, we have seen actually three very big vulnerabilities come in. Number one was the Elementor vulnerability, which came in about a month ago. Very severe vulnerability, very easily could get WooCommerce sites running Elementor compromised without just by a single just by a single request. There was ACF vulnerability with an XSS attack, and then there was a essential items for Elementor just in the past month. And what we saw was uh, uh, there were people trying to exploit these vulnerabilities in one-off sites even before the announcement was made, and or a patch was, or even before the update was released. And once the update was released, even then there was this as soon as the announcement was made for the about the vulnerability, there was a huge spike in the number of attacks that we monitored or we saw across hundreds of thousands of websites trying to exploit this vulnerability. And this is and what the hackers were trying to do was trying to make use of the opportunity of this window before the website really updated the plugins on the website. And that's where a firewall comes in. So before you do the update, or before you are able to do the update, or an update is released, there is still a window where attackers are trying to get into the site, and they are able to do so using automated scripts, uh, and can attack millions of websites within hours. And having a good firewall can mitigate against a lot of these attacks. All right. So how do you protect against this vulnerability apart from the updates? Is a lot, most actually all vulnerabilities, most of the vulnerabilities can be classified into OWASP top 10. Again, I don't want to go deeper into you would have heard some of these names like XSS, SQL injection, CSRF, because web applications today have existed for 25 years. The security of web applications is fairly well understood. So there's been over the years, there's been a lot of progress that has been made, and it's also standardized to a great extent. So what any firewall does is tries to protect against have rules which protect against these standard type of attacks. Okay. Um, Though, when you come to WordPress, since WordPress is a very specific application, there are attacks which even go outside the OWASP categories. At the same time, the firewall, while it tries to cover many parts of OWASP attacks, there are still uh, there are still attack types which a firewall, uh, which do not come under the default rules of firewall, right? And we'll talk again, go deeper into it. And in this case, like actually look at the example that's mentioned in the slide, converting a subscriber account to an admin. This is exactly what was happening with the Elementor attack, right? So a default firewall rule could not protect against such an attack, whereas a default firewall rule can protect against an XSS attack like the one you saw in ACF. So some attacks can be blocked using default rules, and some other attacks will require a special WordPress specific rule. Okay, and many WordPress firewalls today push out uh, specific rules for specific vulnerabilities. Okay, so again, when it comes to firewalls, there are broadly three types of firewalls. Cloud firewall, the most famous one being Cloudflare. Again, you see Cloudflare is a lot of web hosts bundle Cloudflare. Cloudways does it. Cloudways does it for, I think, many of their plans, or you can also get an upgrade on the cloud on your Cloudways account to get Cloudflare protection. Uh, it is mostly focused on OWASP categories. Uh, it comes there is an additional benefit of protection against DDoS attacks. It is Cloudflare is in many ways, and there are others also like this. They are pretty good, but they're not specific to WordPress, right? So, and because they're not specific to WordPress, some of the attacks like Elementor attack or essential add-ons, those attacks cannot get blocked by things like Cloudflare. The other downside is obviously you need to change DNS, though that's a very small downside compared to the benefits something like Cloudflare brings. The second one is plugin firewall. These are very powerful. Uh, they're made specifically for WordPress, right? And they have better context of what is happening in terms of requests. So they know that if the request has come from a logged in user who is an admin, for example. Uh, and they're deeply integrated with WordPress. So again, for plugin firewalls, they do not get uh, they don't get the credit sometimes that they deserve because uh, it's like, okay, fine, it's a plugin based firewall. Plugins, we have different security plugins. The site still get hacked because of it. So plugin firewalls in some ways get bundled with a lot of hardening security plugins, though they are very different. Again, not all firewalls contain or all plugin based firewalls are the same. Different firewalls have different rules and types of rules which lead to different types of attacks getting blocked. Nonetheless, plugin-based firewalls have knowing that they are specialized for WordPress gives them a very big advantage, very very big advantage, and we have seen this repeatedly just in the last month when you're talking about these three massive vulnerabilities which caused hundreds of thousands of sites to get hacked.
Okay. Akshat, I'm sorry to
Network
interrupt you. Just need to make an announcement over here that our live viewers can enter a giveaway where they can win $100 hosting credit, and all they have to do is answer this very simple question that they can see on the screen at the moment. So answer this question, and get a chance to win $100 hosting credit. Akshat, yeah, you can continue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, no. Yes, that's a great question, and that $100 is definitely worth trying for. Yes, network firewalls, and that's typically used by web hosts. It's outside the scope. Most site owners will never come across it, and most of us, I think, in this audience are site owners. So I will keep. Will not go deeper into it because it's outside your control mostly. Uh, Finally, how do you know if a firewall is effective? You need to basically do this thing called penetration testing. Again, very, very well understood concept, though not easy to do. Uh, so figuring out run a penetration test for WordPress is not easy because you need specialized tests which let you figure out whether a WordPress site is vulnerable or uh, whether a firewall is able to protect against the different types of attacks. Uh, there are a lot of automated tools for this. Even if they are not specific to WordPress, it's worth trying out. And that's the only way you will know whether your firewall or your security is effective. Okay. And like I mentioned, so once you test the firewall, you should also check how often it is updated and review the logs at times. I know this is very difficult to do, but nonetheless, if you have the capability, do check it out to see what is getting blocked, what is not getting blocked. Some of the common misconceptions or uh, challenges or what things that people have in mind against firewall is that it slows down the website, and that's not true, right? Or it is firewalls can be really fast. In fact, just by blocking requests, they can actually speed up the websites. The second one is that not as effective as hardening. Again, hardening is this. Most security plugins start with hardening, which gives people a sense that that's the way to protect your site. Further, a firewall is, the nature of the firewall is that there's very little configuration involved, and because there is little configuration involved, people feel that uh, they've really done any work. So how can you get security? Because with the little effort you have put in, whereas hardening involves doing many steps. So again, The fact that you didn't have to do any configuration, please don't let that come in the, don't let that uh, uh, make you believe that it's an ineffective solution. The fact that it is all automatic may actually makes it effective, because you most of us are not experts, and we cannot make the decision on a with all the different configuration options available.
Yeah.
And finally, only big sites get hacked. This is again a mistake which is not really around firewall, but something which everyone needs to. People get fear, think that why will my site get hacked? It's irrelevant. That's not true. Uh, every website is valuable, and hackers can have a lot to gain from your website. And the cost of attacking your website is almost zero. So your website, we can get hacked and needs really good security.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so again, concluding that every website needs firewall for sure, and great security. Malware uh, is changing. Hackers are smart, and something is changing all the time. But and because of this, nothing is 100% secure. But
Yeah.
and don't believe that some
Hmm.
don't believe anything that tells claims to be 100% secure.
Yeah.
But at least our goal should be to cover as much,
Yeah.
add as much safety to our website as possible. Okay, so if you that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for your time. You can email me at akshat@blogwall.net, or my WordPress username, my Twitter username is akshatc.
Yeah,
Thank
Akshat,
you
I
so
really
much.
like the part. Yeah, I really like the part where you added, Cloudflare at in the end where you mentioned that it's you can never be too sure about your security. I mean, there's always someone somewhere who is going to outsmart you in terms of hacking your website or compromising your data. But as site owners, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we keep our data safe, and if we are an e-commerce store, we keep our customers data safe. So we have to do everything in order to make sure that we are 100% safe. If not 100%, then at least 90-95% safe from hackers. And even though there are vulnerabilities, you mentioned Elementor, and there are other tools that also have different vulnerabilities. I mean, and we can not always be 100% safe, but there are steps that we need to take, and I think you mentioned almost all of them. So I think, Akshat, I would like to thank you over here for taking your time out today for this insightful session. I think this was great, and we will definitely be doing more sessions with you in the future as well. We just need an excuse to do webinars actually. So today it's the 20 years of WordPress anniversary. Tomorrow it might be something else, but we will definitely have you on board as well next time to talk about WordPress security, because I think you have a lot of experience in that domain, and you have built tools, and you have helped companies. We have helped us, in fact, Cloudways with the migrator plugin, with Malcare and stuff like that. So I think we know you as someone who is an expert in WordPress security. So yeah, I think you are our go-to option if you want to ever have a talk on WordPress security. So thank you, Akshat. Thank you for your time for this insightful session. And guys, don't go away, because this is day one and we're just getting started. Because next up we have Daniel Schutzsmith, who is passionate about WordCamps, and he's going to be taking you through all the amazing websites that you can build on WordPress. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Akshat, and see
Thanks,
you in
Moise.
the next
Thank you
one.
everyone for being. Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for having me. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.